Hey there, pancake friends! Today we're heading to one of the most mysterious and closed-off places on the planet, North Korea. We'll talk about how this country came to be, why it's still at odds with South Korea, where its leaders came from, what the Pleasure Battalion is, and what limousines with running bodyguards have to do with all of this. We'll cover all sorts of topics, and there will be plenty of surprises. So, ready, set, let's go! How did Korea become North and South? To understand why we see two Koreas on the map, we need to go back to 1945. Before that time, the entire peninsula was under Japanese control. It was Japan's colony. After Japan's defeat in World War II, it was decided to divide Korea. Everything north of the 38th parallel came under Soviet control, while the south fell under American influence. In 1948, both parts established their own governments, a pro-Soviet one in the north and a pro-American one in the south. And from that moment, a serious confrontation began. Both sides wanted to control the entire peninsula. Ideology clashed with ideology, and this struggle, though no longer an armed one, continues to this day. North Korea was founded by Kim Il-sung, a charismatic, tough, and, in the eyes of his country, almost legendary leader. After him, his son Kim Jong Il took the helm, and then his grandson Kim Jong Un. It turned into a dynasty where each new leader was groomed from birth to become the head of state. Kim Jong Un holds quite a few official titles. He is the supreme leader of the DPRK, head of the party, commander of the army, marshal, new star, brilliant comrade, and even a genius among geniuses in military affairs. Young, ambitious, and charismatic, he is not only the heir, but also the main political symbol of the country. Kim Jong Un's security detail is an entire army. Every day he is protected by hundreds of heavily armed people, and his personal guard numbers around 25,000 in total. And this is not just security, it's the elite. Each member is entitled to housing, food rations, and prestige. You can only get in after a rigorous selection process, physical, psychological, and ideological. The outer circle is especially famous the group of bodyguards who literally run alongside the leader's limousine. This first drew attention after Kim's visit to Singapore. Television showed a black Mercedes being accompanied by a dozen men in sharp suits with earpieces. They are the same height as the leader, have excellent eyesight, and are trained in marksmanship and martial arts. These are the only people in the country who are officially allowed to be near Kim while armed. Doubt the leader? Get ready. In 2013, according to rumors, Kim Jong Un ordered the execution of his own uncle for corruption and an excessively merry lifestyle. A year later, his wife faced the same accusations. And in 2015, the North Korean Minister of Defense was executed with an anti-aircraft gun for falling asleep during a meeting. Just imagine. One yawn and it's the end of your career, and not just your career. According to unofficial data, more than 2,000 high-ranking officials have been executed since Kim came to power. In a country where ideology is law and discipline is a cult, even the slightest infraction can cost you your life. It's brutal, but that's exactly how a system built on fear and absolute loyalty operates. The North Korean army is one of the largest on the planet. It has more than 1,300,000 personnel, while the country's population is only about 25 million. This means that 1 out of every 20 residents is a soldier. And if you add in the reservists, the total number of potential soldiers reaches almost 7 million. This is a military machine that demands enormous expenditures, but in the DPRK, they believe that security is more important than anything else. The country has a submarine fleet, artillery systems, ballistic missiles, and most importantly, nuclear weapons. According to experts, it is precisely the presence of nuclear forces that deters the United States from a direct conflict with Pyongyang. A retaliatory strike could reach South Korea or Japan, which is why the West prefers to be cautious. And for the DPRK itself, this is not just about defense, but a symbol of national dignity and strength. On the battlefields, there are soldiers, and in the digital space hackers. North Korea has its own legendary cyber group called Lazarus. Rumor has it that this unit operates under the cover of the Reconnaissance General Bureau of the Korean People's Army. Their mission is to attack, and everything is permitted: hacking, theft, viruses, spyware. It is believed that this very group is behind the most high-profile cyber attacks in recent years. The hacking of Indian nuclear power plants, attacks on companies like Volvo, Boeing, Sony Pictures, and Garmin. There have also been incidents involving cryptocurrency exchanges, and even the American FBI. In 2020, according to unofficial data, North Korean hackers stole around $300 million. And these funds were likely used to finance the nuclear program. This is the digital army of the 21st century, unseen but extremely effective. Kim Jong Un, like his father and grandfather, is a big fan of ground transportation. He almost never flies and prefers to travel by car. There are rumors online that a specially armored Pullman with the highest level of protection was manufactured for him at the Mercedes-Benz factory. According to some reports, his personal garage contains up to a dozen supercars, including a Chevrolet Camaro, Dodge Viper, and even a Ferrari. But there is no official confirmation. This car collection is guarded as securely as the nuclear arsenal. Not even the most daring reporters have managed to photograph a single one of these cars. Even the Russian Lada Priora is part of the collection. Kim once used it to inspect the army. The car was green and looked quite ordinary. Avtovaz does indeed supply cars to North Korea, especially for military needs. So if you see a car in a photo from Pyongyang, there's a good chance it's a Priora. The most secretive means of transportation for the North Korean leader is considered to be his personal armored train. Yes, that's that very same green one with the yellow stripe. Each carriage is a separate module. There's its own power station, kitchens, living compartments, security cars, and even a mobile garage with a limousine. In Vladivostok, Kim exited from the fourth carriage, the most secure one. The windows have glass up to 5 centimeters thick, the ventilation is autonomous and protected against chemical attacks, and the entire interior is shielded against eavesdropping. This train is capable of withstanding even a nuclear strike. Before the main train approaches, a reconnaissance train travels the route. It checks the tracks and ensures security, and another train follows behind for additional cover. Along with Kim, ministers, protocol staff, security, and even chefs travel on the armored train. This train is not just a means of transportation, it is a mobile fortress, a symbol of control and absolute isolation. Kim Jong Un also has an airplane Il-62, which was manufactured back in 1985. It is considered the oldest #1 aircraft among all heads of state. The aircraft is reliable, with exclusive interior finishing. It doesn't fly often, but it makes an impression. At negotiations, Kim most often arrives by train, but whenever he flies, it is always an event. He also has a yacht. Huge and luxurious, it was created for relaxation and privacy. He hosted NBA star Dennis Rodman, his close friend, on it. Together, they vacationed on a secret island owned by Kim. According to Rodman, it was a true 7-star resort with a full infrastructure, created for just one person. A level of luxury that takes your breath away. In a country where ordinary citizens live very differently. Officially, North Korea is a country of strict order and perfect outward appearance. The city streets are clean and well kept. The main mode of transportation is the bicycle. There are few cars, so the streets appear calm and almost silent. People are slim, fit, and neat. Not only because it is customary, but also because the choice of food and clothing is limited. The country is almost entirely self-sufficient in food. Clothing is mostly locally produced. Men prefer strict jackets buttoned up to the chin, while women wear dresses, often in bright colors. The overall style is neatness and modesty. Everything is strict, but in its own way aesthetically pleasing. And the landscapes are a story of their own. Terraced rice fields, carefully cultivated, as if the landscape itself adapts to the ideology. Everything must be under control, both nature and people. North Korea treats Soviet cultural heritage with great care. They still love and show films from the USSR here. There is more Soviet classic cinema on television than anywhere else. This is not just respect for the past, but part of upbringing. Through cinema, an image of the proper, disciplined, and patriotic life is shaped. And the monuments in the DPRK are always huge, solemn, and symbolic. One of the most interesting is the local counterpart to the worker and kolkhoz woman sculpture. But here, there is also an intellectual standing nearby with a raised hand and a brush for writing hieroglyphs. This is an important detail. Here, intellectual labor is officially recognized as one of the driving forces of the revolution. The life of a North Korean is governed by a strict structure. The work week is 6 days long, and leisure time is strictly scheduled. Young people are in no hurry to start families. It is customary to get married closer to the age of 30. For women, this is between 25 and 28. And for men between 28 and 30 years old, work comes first. Before starting a family, every citizen must give their best years to the country, prove their loyalty, and distinguish themselves in their profession or service. This is not just a rule, it is a social norm instilled from childhood. Personal life, strangely enough, is not considered a private matter. It is part of the system, and society keeps a close watch on how you build it. Within the country, access to information is strictly limited. Radios are only allowed with fixed tuning. Listening to foreign radio stations is forbidden and punishable by imprisonment. Televisions are subject to mandatory registration. Frequencies are blocked, and control panels are sealed. Everything a citizen sees and hears is strictly approved by the state. But outside the country, North Korea has its own media mouthpieces, Voice of Korea. This is a powerful international radio station broadcasting in 8 languages, including Russian. Its goal is to spread the DPRK's perspective on world events. There is no internet in the country. Instead, there is a closed internal network, an analog with no access to the global web. At the same time, even foreign publications in English and French are printed for diplomatic purposes, and propaganda work abroad. Yes, people really do flee from North Korea. The reasons vary. Some can't endure the regime, some seek freedom, others are escaping punishment. Most often they cross over to South Korea. Until 1993, there was a law under which every defector was given generous payments, housing, the opportunity to study, and even a bodyguard if they were of particular intelligence value. But there are also cases in the opposite direction. People flee from South Korea back to the north. The reasons can be unexpected. Intelligence agencies recall their agents. Some people face discrimination in South Korea and cannot cope with the new reality, while others are simply hiding from punishment for crimes. Among the well-known examples are officers, generals, ministers, and defectors from academic circles, such as a professor of philosophy or an official from the Ministry of Maritime Affairs. Interestingly, some even return with their entire families and, surprisingly, receive fairly lenient treatment, as long as they have not violated important state secrets. Is it possible to walk alone in North Korea? If you're a local? Yes, of course. But if you're a foreigner, you will never be left alone. Tourists, even if it's not stated explicitly, are almost always assigned a personal escort. This person is not just a guide, they are your shadow, an observer, a guardian of ideology. Their job is not only to tell you things, but also to watch where you go, who you talk to, and what you look at. There is no freedom of movement. You can't leave the hotel on your own or take a walk through the market. Everything is strictly according to the route, on schedule, and under supervision. But at the same time, it must be said that most of these escorts are polite, smile, and do everything they can to make your trip memorable. But even so, you still won't see the real North Korea without a filter. When it comes to North Korea, it can be hard to tell what's real and what's fiction. There's little information, and even fewer reliable sources. And Western media often add fuel to the fire, creating the image of absolute evil. The demonization of the DPRK plays on fear, sensation, and ratings. That's why all sorts of rumors appear, from executions by mortar fire to stories about pleasure battalions. Some of it might be true, some is exaggerated, and some is deliberate provocation. Inside the country, they call this an information war against their leaders. And the people who live there become hostages to this image, both the external one and the internal one. Despite all the rumors, fears, and secrecy, or perhaps precisely because of them, North Korea remains a country that people want to see for themselves, to experience that strange atmosphere of order and strictness, to see streets where people don't run but march, to talk to people, even if only through a translator and under supervision, to immerse themselves in a reality that the world is used to discussing but rarely understands. Would you visit Kim Jong Un as a guest? Write your answer in the comments. Wishing everyone a great mood. Stay with us. And of course, may you have pancakes every day. See you in the next video.